Welcome, everybody, to the second episode of the Justin Bell Show. It took me all night to work out that name, and I was thinking of some really clever things to call this. And then I thought, actually, very famous people have called their own podcasts, TV shows, syndicated chat shows after them. So I thought, why not? Now, of course, it's a big month in our motorsport community and the car world, really. We have the Detroit Auto Show. We've got CES going on right now. But in my world, and especially that of most of my friends and colleagues, it's almost time for the Daytona, the Rolex Daytona 24. So I didn't go to the test weekend, which was known as the Raw before the 24. That used to be a pretty quiet sort of affair with just the teams themselves and a few fans, but now it's exploded into something very big. So I thought I'll bring on the only guy. I'm going to show you a picture now. He's the only man I know that also has a little icon of himself, like I do. But actually, I have to say, Marshall Pruett, he doesn't even dare put a helmet on himself. He lets his beard do the talking. But I'm going to bring him in right now because he definitely doesn't need a beer. He's with me right now, and I tell you what, Marshall, it is wonderful to have you here. I am really glad you're joining me on the show, and let me pop you up next to me right now. And here we are, Marshall Pruett himself. Welcome.
Hey, mate, why don't we just figure out how to do an animated version of myself with a little cartoon character there, and then we'll really be set.
Well, do you know what I thought about was actually if we did do an animated version of myself or you, we could make him do superhuman things.
Yeah, but you're already cartoonish enough for us, mate. I don't know if we need to have an artist actually put lines and color to work. You're a living cartoon, brother. You're good.
Oh, well, I tell you what, that's nice you say that. I have been called worse, but we've known each other quite a long time, and you have become, in my opinion, the leading figure in our sport. And I actually got to say, you, in terms of talking about what goes on, I did a little bit of research, and I'm just going to prop this back. I mean, you're a handsome man now. Look at that one. That's better than a selfie, isn't it? That's a completely beautiful shot. Someone, John from New Zealand actually says he loves your work, guys. Well, thank you very much. We do what we do, right?
We do.
In the best way we can.
I've always appreciated your working with you, which we've done for many years at Fox and Speed. But to be honest, I've tried to pattern my burgeoning comfort in standing in front of a camera and talking into it on your very familiar style, and also our friend and colleague Robin Miller. I've spent most of my career holding the microphone, sticking it under someone's nose instead of being the person standing next to them talking. So when it comes to training and edumacation, I mean, I kind of look to what you do and say, okay, be like Justin, even though you're 3 times as wide and far less accomplished. But thanks for having me on.
Well, listen, what I didn't realize, let's go back a little bit. I didn't realize as I grab, I've got to tell everybody, MarshallPruett.com is an excellent resource. But here's the trouble, and I speak for most people in most businesses, that when you take these excellent, talented people around you a little bit for granted. Hey, Marshall, hey, John, hey, everybody. But it's only when you start researching someone do you realize that there's a reason they're there, and it's not just happenstance. You really became quite an accomplished engineer and work with teams and really know what you're doing. I just thought you were the guy that bought Autosport or Racer Magazine, but no, you're the real deal, mate.
As I tell folks, I was so good as a IndyCar mechanic and engineer. I am now entrusted with a keyboard. So,
It's very interesting.
Fully vouches for my deep realm of talents. Look, mate, you were fortunate to have a father that raced professionally and was known worldwide. I was fortunate to have a father who raced on an amateur level and was known within the San Francisco Bay Area. And so while your father was dragging you to places like Le Mans, my father was dragging me to Laguna Seca.
To Sears Point as well, right? And all those places.
Seca, you name it. So very different levels of racing stratosphere, but similar path in terms of, as I think I wrote, I was part of my father's pre-race packing list. Toolbox, tires, throw the kid in the back seat. And from there, he was a mechanic, owned his own shops, but just grew up with a deep love for the sport, and not a surprise that I followed in my father's footsteps.
Not surprised that you're here right now. I mean, it really isn't. I mean, but let's jump right in, because I couldn't come to the Raw because I'm going to actually name drop a little bit right now, but I was shooting an episode of Jay Leno's new show, and I couldn't make it. But I said at the top of the show that the Raw used to be a pretty low-key affair, and we'd all drag ourselves away from our bloated festivities over the holidays, and we'd go to the Raw. But now, with the superstars we got there, it really was probably outrageous this year. Can you give the audience a little bit of a recap? Because for me, we have the superstars on top of our own superstars, right?
I would say IMSA, for the first time in its modern iteration, keeping in mind that it went away for a decade and a half, if not longer, came back in 2014, having grown up and loved IMSA, the original IMSA, as a kid of the 80s who loved the GTP series, GTO, and whatnot. Being at this year's Roar before the 24 was genuinely the first time where I have felt the vibe was similar enough to the magic golden time of the 1980s in IMSA, where
wow.
I never expected such a thing, Justin. I really didn't. We've all hoped IMSA would become even a shadow of its former self. I did not expect to go to the Roar and see all the drivers, see all the cars, feel and hear what everyone else was thinking, that, holy crap, this is amazing. So the great thing, Fernando Alonso, big name, biggest star there, making his proper sports car debut. You would think that would dominate everything. It did on the first day, on Friday. By Saturday, that's actually where my happiness started to come in, Justin, because instead of it being a 3-day whitewash, the Fernando Alonso show presented by forget everyone else who was here, it was amazing. But by day 2, day 3, we just fell into this, oh, but look at the Cadillacs and how wonderfully they're doing, and the Porsches and GTLM and the Fords and GTD. The real quality of IMSA beyond international superstars is what rose up. So if we're talking about a general recap, I can say that Fernando was the star, but it was nice to see the strength of IMSA's overall quality stand up and become the thing that really stood out. Leaving the Roar Sunday night, I wasn't thinking about Fernando. I was thinking about Felipe Nasr and his fastest ever lap set at Daytona in the modern era. I was thinking about the immense fight between Porsche and Ford in GTLM. In GTD, I was happy to see that Lamborghini and Acura and Porsche and Mercedes, so many models are fighting among one another.
Or someone says the damn thing show.
Yes. Plus we had Alonso. But I would say that the deeper takeaway that I had was we have the strongest influx of European teams in this modern iteration of IMSA coming to Daytona. The Jackie Chan DC Racing effort that almost won the 24 Hours of Le Mans last year. They're rising up, finding speed in the top class prototype. The United Autosports effort with Alonso, but also Paul di Resta, Lando Norris, Will Owens, and others. The Ligiers weren't necessarily as fast and as crisp as they thought, so there's going to be a little bit of pushing there. Who wants to have Fernando Alonso show up? Yay! And he's down in 10th and rarely in frame, so there'll be some work there. The Eureka WEC P2s, incredibly impressive. Probably the standout team for me, if we're starting at the top class, Justin, in prototype, Core Autosport, making their debut in the prototype class, multiple-time PC, the second tier prototype class that's gone away, making their debut in the top class. And man, they were quick like a bunny. And man, they look like they've been doing it for a million years. So that was wonderful to see.
Yeah, I'm very excited because I think Colin has been so sort of faithful to John. John's been faithful to him in the quarter sport, and they've done their GRC lights last year and stuff. But to be honest, if we track back, Colin Braun is one of the finest young talents we have. And I was a little worried that he might be heading down into the bus lane, and he gets back now. And I think it's really cool. So I'm going to get him on the show. He's such a, I mean, who do you not get on the show? I mean, everybody, the paddock is alive in a way that for the fans the fans of sports cars worldwide have been a very patient group. And we're now delivering, and IMSA are delivering.
I would add to that, and this is a very real thing. So for many, many years, you and I have been accustomed to, and fans have been accustomed to, big names dropping in, IndyCar drivers, some NASCAR, whatnot, a little bit of a sideshow. Hey, cool, it's IMSA or it's Grand Am, but here are the shiny stars to look at. This was pretty amazing to see that not only were those big stars there, but we also had the fact that they brought immense speed. They brought immense interest. They walked away, blown away by how strong the field was, the quality of the product. So here you have the people that are normally the ones who are propped up as the big stars. Look at them. This is the reason to come. They're pushing back, going, no. Don't look at me. Look at everything else. So I'll just close on that point. Normally the Rolex 24, little bit of a kind of race of champions feel to it each year. We'll get 4, 5, 6 maybe cool drivers from other series to come in, but then they go away. IMSA kind of falls back into its rhythm, et cetera, et cetera. I think, Justin, we will see, but I think we are going to have IMSA really starting to challenge IndyCar as the series to watch. So if you have open wheel fans or NASCAR fans, whatever fans, that are, in their little silo, this is my form of racing that I like, I think IMSA is really going to stand up this year and go, yeah, add me, because it deserves it. The quality is finally there.
The quality is there. It's going to be the most incredible race. It's hard to, someone just asked earlier, what about the 90? What about the 90?
Well, the Spirit of Daytona, the artists formerly known as Visit Florida Racing, Daytona, the new Cadillac, which they have, with Tristan Vautier and Matt McMurray and Eddie Cheever III. That was another breakout news angle from the Roar. So we know that the Cadillacs last season, as you and I saw, kicked the living bleep out of everyone else, won the championship with ease.
Yeah.
What we didn't know is how a team stepping into one for the first time, year 2, after using both a Multimatic and a Ligier last year, we didn't know if they would immediately adapt, if they would be behind the Action Express Cadillac team, the Wayne Taylor team. No, not at all. We saw the strength of Cadillac Racing, be it their setup sheets that they can offer, just the general insight to get a team to get their product up to speed. And then we also, one thing you and I have known for a long time, you could put Tristan Vautier in a shopping cart, and that guy would be faster than just about everybody. So it was just wonderful to see that team, after a fairly tough 2017 season, stand up and run top 2, top 3 most of the time.
Wow.
I love upsets, Justin, and they're looking like a dark horse right out of the box.
Well, I mean, that's a pretty good summary of what the 90s doing. But Adam Sharp may have just actually said the most true thing ever said on the internet. Quality reporting has gone a long way towards raising the IMSA brand. Well, thank you very much, Adam. I mean, from all end of the pit lane, everybody does a job. You know why? Because this is a series we believe in. But listen, that's all very insider stuff we've been talking about, and I'm sure there's a lot of fans watching who agree and understand with the insight. But do you understand, everybody, that the man we're talking to, Marshall Pruett, has just done 1 million downloads of his podcast, which I'm just writing it because I have to put it up because it's too much. There it is, 1 million downloads. That is a magnificent number. And of course, you get $1 a download. I know that. So obviously your new Ford GT's coming soon.
You thought I just ordered 1. No, mate, that was 2. You have the spare running at all times. Well, we either have a lot of people that take pity on me or just a lot of folks with really, really bad judgment. But I thank all of them for listening. Yeah, kidding aside, it's become a little passion project of mine, something that is mine. It's really the only thing I do in the media sphere that is 100% me. I love it. And for those who are watching and listening, the final episode of Who the Hell Are You, the 15-episode series that I launched in November, concludes race week at Daytona with the finale, Justin Bell. And I've been giving you hell in every lead up in every single other one, but it's all A, in good fun, but B, because your episode was the best. And it was also the only one recorded that wasn't mono a mono, something where we actually had a little bit of a crowd. People were applauding your answers, mate. So I've been giving you grief up till now, but I hope folks are going to love it.
Well, it will be so fun. I mean, I thank you for being on it, but I want to ask a question of you. I want to ask one for you. I've made up one. If we could unzip Marshall Pruett like a skin in a sci-fi movie, who would be underneath? There you are, out you come.
Yes, I would say.
Don't say Cameron Diaz, because that's weird.
Oh, Fred G. Sanford standing on top of Rodney Dangerfield. That would be probably, and maybe a small George Carlin in there. Not that this matters, but since I was a really young kid, comedy was just my biggest influence. And I'm not saying that I possess any of the skills of the people that I've mentioned, but comedians really, truly, along with my father, shaped the way I view the world and my mindset. Wow. So my sarcastic, snippy side, all thanks to them. You.
No, well, Marshall, listen, it has been spectacular to have you join me. I'm going to see you in 10 days at Daytona. Let's chat more there. I know we got some fun stuff planned, but I'm about to bring in a man right now that, I don't think there's anyone bigger, better, and his name isn't Judy. If I bring it up right now, it says Judy. Oh my gosh, Scott, I'm going to take that off the screen. Scott, have you got... So Scott is joining us from obviously something that looks a lot nicer than my backyard or yours. Marshall, before I kick you off my show, do you have anything to say to Scott? Because it's a big weekend coming up.
Thank you for, 50 years of service as a race car driver. Thank you for being a really good friend and for being the finest example of a Pruett in motor racing, even though we aren't related. But over the years, it feels like we have become related. So thank you, brother. And I will be watching and happy I'll be there watching your final race, but there will definitely probably be a tear or two shed and some Pruett Syrah consumed after your final race is over.
You bet, Marshall, and it's always been great working with you and continuing on in the future, maybe in a little different capacity. But it's just been incredible, across the board. And we've been listening to you guys, and Marshall touched on it, where he was talking about IMSA and the Roar, and Justin, you had mentioned it as well, where there's that magic in the air, back like it was in the mid to late 80s when you had, the factory teams come over from Europe. I got a chance to drive for Walkinshaw and for some of the Porsche teams, and you get that magic and that excitement. You get that feel, and you just see, from my viewpoint, you're seeing that build year after year after year after year, and it's exciting for me because I absolutely love IMSA. I love sports car racing, and to see that momentum, and I truly believe it's going to be giving IndyCar a run for its money.
I know. Talking about IndyCar, well, first of all, Scott, thanks so much for joining me. I know you've had to listen to us talk away. Meanwhile, I've been looking out at that camera at that incredible vista. Is that from your garden? Where does your land stop? Where the clouds are?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I mean, it's we are. This is where the vineyards are, and all the work happens here on the Pruett Vineyard side, and it's just a great place. For me, how crazy it can get on the road, and as many hours, and frustrating flights that you can have, and flights you miss, and challenges. It's always nice to come home to your own special place, and the good Lord willing has given me just a wonderful place to come home to with a wonderful family.
Yeah, I mean, wonderful family and the fruits of your labors. And we'll talk more about the wine in a second. But Scott, I don't know if you can see that, but I just brought up a picture which was taken by Marshall. You were a stud, basically, and you set the scene for Studley racing drivers. But that was a heyday of IndyCar. I don't know what year. What would we be looking at there in your Budweiser suit?
That'd be 89. That was the year I was rookie of the year at the Indy 500. But you look at the late 80s, even through the mid 90s. I mean, you had a tire war going on, you had a chassis war going on, engine wars going on. You had close to 1,000 horsepower, sticky tires. I mean, the cars were just unbelievable to drive, and they certainly would reach out and hurt you if you weren't careful as well because of those blinding speeds. And I think everybody that has traveled through that area will remember that era as being one of probably the most incredible from a fan side and from a driver's side. Yeah.
Well, I mean, and Marshall said it, UCAP doubled up on it, is it just right now in this exciting era where IMSA, I mean, there were moments, I know every competitor, every sponsor, every team, and I believe even IMSA themselves may have thought, are we on the right track with the regulations and the categories of the cars? But history will dictate that they outmaneuvered the FIA, the WEC, everybody, and not in a negative connotation, but they did it in a way that we now have the best racing. And it must be really great for you because you've won so many championships in IMSA. You've been such a part of it all the way through. Does it feel like you're a member of, suddenly like you're a member, I'm not going to say the Jackson 5, but you're like a band that really suddenly hit the top of the charts, right? And everybody's played their part.
It has been incredible. And, you see that heyday, and I'm sure you remember it with your dad, where, in the mid to late 80s into the early 90s, where IMSA was just a female. I mean, it was just an incredible thing to see and to be a part of. And then it kind of, unfortunately went away and had its regrouping going on a number of different levels. And so to see that come back and then for me to really get back involved in the early 2000s with Ganassi and with Lexus and moving forward from 04, won the championship that year. And then seeing that every year it's getting better and it's getting better and it's getting better and it's getting better. And now you look at, the GTD category and you look at all these great manufacturers. You look at the DPI category and you see all these great manufacturers. You look at GTLM, you see all these great manufacturers. One or two or 15 with others just sitting there on the sidelines getting ready to jump in and go. So it's been exciting and I've just really enjoyed being part of it.
Yeah, well, I've got a great question here. Obviously, Lexus came out into motorsport. I drove for Pikes Peak, as some people know, the year before last in 16. 17, they came in heavy with GTD, with you as the team leader. There's a lot of attention, as Glenn's saying here. How are they going to fare in their second season? There's less excuses in the second season, aren't there, for any team or any driver or any manufacturer? How are they going to do? You're taking them through Daytona, and obviously the big news is, for anyone that hasn't has been under a rock, is that Scott is actually going to retire after the Rolex. So the Rolex is a big weekend for you in 2 weeks' time.
It is a big weekend, and stepping back to the question about the Lexus RCF GT3, last year was our first race ever in that car. We were very limited on the amount that we understood the car, what the car wanted, what was the sweet spot for the car. I mean, it was, and we knew. I mean, it was going to be challenging, but that's all part of going racing. That's just all part and parcel to it all. We got through the whole season, had poles and top fives, and a lot of good runs. But more than anything else, built that database. So now when we went back to Daytona for the Roar, we were in a completely different spot than we were a year ago, and quite frankly, it's a lot more. And I think from here on forward for the whole season, you're just going to see that team getting better and better and better and better. So it's going to be great for me because you gotta, people have been talking to me last 10 years, when are you going to retire? And, thinking about that, and I mean, I don't know if there's ever a good or bad time to retire. However, for me and where I'm at, being able to get out on my terms, the Rolex 24 means so much to me. How many, I've won it 5 times overall, and I think a record number of times in class. So, do you do it this race? Do you do it next race? And bringing it all together, the Rolex 24 Daytona made the absolute perfect sense.
Yeah, and of course, as you say, you're up in those hills. You've got every reason to enjoy being up there. I'm sure you're still going to be part of the Lexus family, because I know you're a big statesman for them and travel all over America doing things with a very fast-growing brand in that way. A good friend of mine and the show, Laura's just said, what's it like to drive an IMSA Daytona prototype compared to Formula One? Did you drive Formula One?
Didn't race, but tested.
You tested, right? Yes.
I did, yeah. Back in the late 80s, trying to make that decision. I was just got done winning 3 championships with Ford and with Roush, and what's my next step going to be? Is it going to be IndyCar? Is it going to be NASCAR? Is it going to be Formula One? So Ford arranged a test for me over in Europe, and it's interesting to see where motorsports has gone, especially probably in more like the last 5 years, where we're looking continually at getting a balance of power. Everybody hears that
Where did my headphones go? Yeah. I just got to come back in here, Scott, with my headphones just died. Hold on 1 second. I'm going to be back with you. Such is the... Okay, are we back here, Scott? Can you hear me? Okay. Oh, no, we have just a little problem here. If everyone could just wait with me for 1 second. I have just lost my headphones. I will be back on in 1 second. That is not good. Mode to self. Let's just do that. Can you hear me now? Oh,
I can hear you.
Okay, perfect. Sorry, everyone.
Oh, good.
Just as a little bit of a mix up there as I went to something. Never use Bluetooth headphones again on a live broadcast. There's my memo to myself. So obviously, lots of stuff going on. As you said, the series is just absolutely coming together. Running these cars at this level, the pace of the performance of the drivers, the performance of the cars. I think we're in a new era for everybody. But more importantly, Scott, I've never seen you in them. Do you wear glasses to read? I need to know that you are actually somewhat of a normal human being.
I don't yet, but I'm absolutely fighting that. So
no!
I'm getting closer, and not wanting to give in to that temptation to put those on. It just makes me work harder when I am reading.
Well, that's very funny. And it's a great friend of mine, Buzz Marcus. I'm actually about to start a campaign. Buzz has won, Scott, 200 amateur races. He is now on his way to his 80s, and he still races and won the other day in Florida. And I'm trying to campaign for him to become an RRDC member. So if anyone deserves it, it's a guy that it's racing from his wheelchair almost. So that's the thing about our sport, isn't it? People never give up. I mean, professionally, they give up, but you never get out of the sport completely.
And the same thing for me. I've been so fortunate to have, this is going on my 50th year of racing. Absolutely love it, passionately, dearly love it through my whole life. And so with that, Lexus has extended my contract 3 years to be an ambassador for them. So very much still in and around the sport. And you look at, guys like Mario Andretti, and I'll use him as an example because he's a good friend. even though he's retired numerous yeyears ago, you still see him around the IndyCar races, giving rides, very much participating in and around racing, not just IndyCar, but many different forms, because you love it. I mean, you do this for your whole life, and I mean, it's like a drug. And it's and I would like to say it's good for you, as long as you don't put a car off the track in the weeds and hurt yourself. But short of that, it's just an incredible sport, and a lot of people see the drivers front and center. However, especially when you're going to a race like Daytona, all that time, effort, and energy that goes into prepping these cars and getting them ready, and when you can get to victory lane, you share it not only with your teammate driver, your whole organization, because there is absolutely this focal point for so many people coming together, especially for the Rolex 24, that being a part of that is just something absolutely special.
Yeah. And Scott, in a world where we're facing, and I think electric cars are amazing, and autonomous cars, judging by half the people I drive with in LA, they shouldn't be driving. They have their place, but boy, we are lucky, because I think your generation, through mine, through the young guys we're watching, I'm not saying there isn't a future for racing at all, but I think there's an amazing future, but it'll be a different one. And I think we're the ultimate extreme sport. There's no reset button on our sport. And I think that's why the way IMSA are positioning it, the way you have these GTD and these GTLM cars, right? They are visceral. People dig them. What was the poster? What poster did you have on your walls as a child? Mine was a Lamborghini Countach, right? Because, what was yours?
That was it. That was one of them, right? I mean,
yeah, it was.
Bullet would have been a perfect example. You got that Mustang that was incredible. Super was huge. You have all those great brands that were in and around because you loved it. And the other thing that I see is, especially with the youth of today, when I was 15 and a half, I was like, okay, man, okay, today. And I was on my parents to get down and get my license. And you see a big difference in that in the next generation coming, where it's like, I know a lot of my sons and my daughter's friends who don't even have their license yet. And they're like, 16, 17, 18. And I don't quite get that, but you're seeing that more and more. And I think a lot of it is because of so many things, like we're doing right now. I mean, it's those things are at your fingertips. You don't have to go out as much and do. And unfortunately, the passion of getting out and having to get your license and getting your own car and how you polished that thing and took care of it and made sure it was absolutely perfect before you were taken out on the streets was a big part of it.
Yeah. Well, listen, Scott, I'm going to bring this up because it does tie us up, and I'll let you get on. I know you've got to go. Brian's just said, Scott is a class act in all he does. And then Todd underneath said, Scott makes excellent wine. And you do. I'm looking around, and it's odd because I would raise a glass of Pruett Vineyards wine, but I can't find my bottle. But anyway, the wine, it's your future, it's your current, you love it, right?
Love it. It's been so unexpected. We're very fortunate. I mean, this is where we produce those truly world-class Syrahs. In 2012 vintage and a 2014 vintage was rated #1 in the world by Wine Spectator, which is so far beyond what I could have ever expected for my wife and I. And I do all the winemaking as well. So it certainly is right there. Spending more time with the family, for sure. Still being around the races with Lexus, and still getting my adrenaline fix by driving some of those fast Lexus cars, like the LFA, like the RCF. Because that's the one thing that I think I'm not quite sure what it's gonna be like, because I've lived on adrenaline for my whole life. Getting that, I mean, you've been behind the wheel. I mean, you know that adrenaline.
Scott, I looked at your Wikipedia page. Apart from 8 years, which was the first 8 years of your life, you've never not competed. Think about that.
Right.
And you're only 36.
I know. I know, right? Well, it's 36 and a half. So.
Yeah.
But it's, having that adrenaline has been a huge part of it. And I told the people, in fact, I'm gonna grab the camera because I'm gonna move right. So I talked to people.
Oh, he just disconnected from me. Oh, what a pity. Hopefully he'll jump back in. He can do that in a minute. I actually have a feeling that he is he's on top of a hill. I don't own a hill, but Scott certainly does. I do want to give a special shout out, though. You can see behind me, I am not in my studio at home in LA. I am in Scottsdale, Arizona, and it is the wedding of a great friend of mine, Walt Brown. And I thought, what better place to come and do a show this week, which is going to be here in Brown's Classic Autos. And these are just some of their cars, a lot of them going to Barrett-Jackson next week. And it's just magnificent. Certainly my garage doesn't look like this at all. So I was going to bring this up on the screen because I know Scott would have said it, but anyone that knows him says he ends up during every broadcast we've ever done, he says hi to my family at home. It's got a bit of a trademark. It's even on his wiki page. So everybody, thanks so much for watching. I'm getting ready, like you all are, to see the Rolex 24 just coming up. Oh, Scott's joined us back. That's perfect. Okay. Come up in here, Scott. There you are.
There we are. So this is where I spent way too much time right here. So I don't know if you can see it, but spin bike, life cycle, roller, elliptical, weights. This is like, I just call this my cardio room.
Yeah.
And I am not going to miss spending time in there. I mean, it's, we train indoors. That's what we do. I don't, you're so worried about getting hurt, and I have gotten hurt training before the start of the season, before out on my mountain bike, because we live in this great part of the world. And that's another one of these things that I've done my whole life. I'm to the point where I want to train because I want to, not because I have to, because it's so critical, as you know, to be in great shape in these race cars, especially going in the 24, because you could be in the car 2 hours, 3 hours, out 2, back in another 2. I mean, you just don't know how things are going to play.
No, absolutely. Well, Scott, I'm going to let you go. I'm going to get going, but there is something very important. Look what I've just brought up on the screen. It says, hi to my family at home, just for you. You do need those glasses, mate. I can tell you do.
I got the, it's in the sunset right now. And yeah, hi to my family at home. Wow. How cool is that? A lot of people are, just been very gracious with their words about that as well as my retirement. I was just truly overwhelmed after making the announcement, and between my Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, how everything just, it blew up. Thousands of people, well-wishers, and just, telling me these great stories of how they remembered me in all these different races. It has been, just truly touching. And I'm going to savor every moment of this race coming up, Justin.
Yeah, I bet you are. And I'm going to be there. We're going to be covering it for Fox Sports. We're on IMSA. I'll see you in 10 days. You better get back in that cardio room. What a great life, balancing out. You have to have the workout so you can drink wine. That'll be the next thing you have to keep working out for.
Thanks, Justin. Great catching up.
Thanks a lot, mate. Take care. Bye-bye. Okay, everybody. Well, listen, I am going to wrap it now. Thanks so much for joining along. Next week, I'm actually going to be back in LA. I think I've got a really fun guest coming along. I have quite a cool road car coming my way. Please, obviously, if you can share and post and do everything you can for the show, I would truly appreciate it. It is a big race. The series of IMSA and the sports karting world is totally blowing up. And I'm just very, very honored to be a part of it. In 2 weeks, I'm trying to get a big rock star on the show. So it'll be rock stars and fast cars. Thanks for joining. I will see you very soon. And remember, if you have any ideas for any guests, because I can probably pretty much reach everyone. I just need to have the imagination. So take care. We will catch up soon. Thank you very much.